Hello everyone and welcome back to our special village. In this video, we're going to talk about a very important question that should be in the minds of every parent of a child in a school. In particular, if your child has special needs or if a child is in a wheelchair. We want to talk to you about the issue of airway clearing devices and what happens if your child chokes and needs to be assisted in order to unobstruct the obstruction. I have been in touch with the Department of Education in New York City, which is the largest education department in the country. And I have to say, a little bit surprised by the response that I received. When I first learned about airway clearing devices, very much like this one that I have here, I thought this would be a very good option for someone with special needs, especially for somebody in a wheelchair. And I'm going to explain to you why. The reason is that when someone is in a wheelchair and the abdominal thrust needs to be applied when that person is choking, that person needs to be removed from the situation. Either that or it has to be done, around the wheelchair. I know there's procedures regarding that because we met with people at the New York City Department of Education and they told us that there is a specific procedure when a child is in a wheelchair. Another thing that they told us is that a person in a wheelchair should be with two people. In the event that the person has to pull the child or the person with disabilities out of the wheelchair and perform the abdominal thrust on that person. And here's what I'm not saying. What I'm not saying is that abdominal thrusts don't work, because we know that they do. And I am a fierce advocate of abdominal thrust, but I'm also a fierce advocate of having options, specifically when those options interfere, or not having that option, I should say, interferes with the American with Disabilities Act. And why do I say that? Why do I make that assertion? Anytime that a person with a disability has a disadvantage over someone who is not disabled, we're talking about a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. If a child in a wheelchair has to waste precious seconds, precious minutes waiting for help, or having to wait for the abdominal thrust to be applied correctly, we are wasting precious time. And that person or that child is at a disadvantage, one that they should not be placed at. And so this is where a device like this one comes into play, because anyone that could grab this device and has operated, something as easy as a plunger can appreciate how easy it is to apply this. It's very easy. And it doesn't need any specific training, whereas, we know that some forms of first aid need specific training. This one doesn't. Anybody can use it. You can even apply it to yourself if you're in that situation, right? So I was taken aback by their response, or I should say the lack of response of the New York City Department of Education. So I guess this video here is to inform parents out there, especially if you're a parent advocate and you are concerned about the safety of your child in schools, and especially if you're a parent of a child with a disability, and if your child is in a wheelchair, even more. But anybody with a disability, advocate for your child. Advocate for another option. We're not saying, I am not saying here that all the other options should be forgotten about. Not only should they not be forgotten about, they should be practiced because they're tried and tested, and we want all options to be on the table, but we want more options. We want our children to have every option available. when we talk to the Department of Education, and when I say we, I'm talking about myself, and I'm talking about an organization called Equal First Aid. I'm going to leave their information over here with Mrs. Tony LeBay, who's the executive director. She was in this conversation. We left with the impression that the Department of Education was not willing to even engage in a conversation because they interpreted as us pushing a certain product into the schools. Mind you, products get pushed into the schools all the time. I worked for the Department of Education for 22 years and as an administrator for most of those years. So I know this happens all the time. And, depending on who wins, their contract, products get put in schools that are bought by the schools by, for millions of dollars sometimes. This is, I believe, a $40 device. This one in particular, Mrs. LeBate had offered to donate some of these products to the schools. So I wasn't sure exactly what they meant by this. They also asked for peer-reviewed journals, which we presented. And we heard nothing from them. I've been in touch with District 75, which is the special education district in the New York City Department of Education. I heard absolutely nothing from them. Absolutely nothing. Their silence is actually deafening to me. I worked for District 75 for many, many years, and I still do have immense respect for District 75. I have immense respect for the Department of Education and for the people that work there. And I know that eventually they're going to make the right decision. But sometimes we as parents, we as advocates, we as family members need to push them a little bit. So this video is for parents, families out there. Let's keep our children safe. Let's give our children options. Let's make sure that when it comes to a life or death situation, they have all the options they can have and we can save their lives. No option is no option. No option is not an option for people with disabilities. They need to have an option because we've seen our regular options fail. So we want to have this extra option for them. So if you're a parent out there, contact your school nurse, contact your school principal, contact your district. You just heard what happened to me with the largest education system in the country where I thought I was known. I spoke to people that I knew personally. And, for some reason, they thought I was trying to push a product. And in a way, I am, but I'm not trying to sell them anything. I am just trying to keep our children safe. So make sure that you contact them and you let them know that to you, your children's life is the most important thing of all. And you can't educate a child if you can't keep them safe. So here's the other option. I'm going to leave the information for Equal First Aid, which is an organization that is dedicated to helping people with disabilities have life-saving options out there, because we cannot be equal if our first aid is not equal. I leave you with that, and please contact them and show them your support. You have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are. Thank you for your attention to this very important information. Have a great day, and I'll see you in our next video.